Well, more than 30 years ago, a friend of mine showed me how to make a really simple floating bait. And down the years, it's caught me loads of carp, but it's also been useful for rudd, chub and grass carp on the surface too. It's tough enough that it won't break down quickly, and you can hair rig it or loose feed it, and it will last for ages, but also soft enough that you can side hook it as well, which is great if you're stalking big carp. So let's have a look how we make it, and if you like these videos, please don't forget to subscribe. So we're really only going to use two ingredients. One is this basic sponge mix that you can get from your local supermarket. Now on its own, that's a bit fragile to use as a bait, and it will get waterlogged quite quickly. You won't be able to hook it or hair rig it, it will be a bit soft. My secret ingredient is just a couple of tablespoonfuls of wheat gluten. Now that acts as a binder, and added to the sponge mix, it will give us a perfect bait. Now this is a really plain bait, so you can add whatever colours, flavours, additives you want to it, just to customise it however you like. So the sky's the limit really. A lot of the time, if I find there's a boilie that's doing the business on the lake I'm fishing, I'll use the same kind of flavours and additives as that, because then the carp will instantly recognise it as food. But really the choice is yours. You can add whatever flavours and additives to it that you like. Right, so let's get cracking. All we need to do is mix the two ingredients together. So what I like to do is I'll put them into one of these resealable plastic bags. I've managed to split the bag on this sponge mix, but we'll pour it in carefully. There we go. I've got a little bit still in the bowl. That can go into, there we go. And then to that I'm going to add just a couple of tablespoonfuls of wheat gluten. It's quite powerful stuff this. As the name suggests, it's the gluten or the protein from wheat, which really acts as a binder and makes baits very rubbery. It's a really useful ingredient, and we'll probably come back to it in other videos in the future. It's quite cheap to buy, and a kilo will last you for several years, so it's worth getting hold of, especially if you like paste baits, which we'll look at in another video another day. And all we need to do is really mix those two ingredients up, just so that wheat gluten is evenly spread. Powerful stuff. If you're into your paste fishing and you're looking for a stringy paste, then often the secret ingredient is a gluten. It could be a wheat gluten or a rice gluten, but it's that gluten that gives it the stringiness. Right, so there we go. Now we're going to make up our cake mix. So the recipe actually suggests using a medium-sized egg, but because I've added a little bit of wheat gluten to it, I need slightly more liquid. So I'm going to use a large egg and just crack that in my mixing bowl. And then I need to add about 5 tablespoonfuls of water. And I'm just using tap water here. And I don't think on a bait like this it makes a great deal of difference. 4, 5, there we go. And then we're going to mix that up a little bit. And there we go. And like I say, you can add any additives at this stage that you like really. And for the next stage, what we're going to do is we're going to start slowly adding the powder to the liquid. And what we're trying to aim for is a fairly runny mix. You don't want it to be too stiff because then it will go really stodgy. So I'm going to put the whisk on and start adding. I like to do this a bit at a time, don't go too mad. And make sure it's really, really well mixed. I'll come back in a minute when I'm all done. Well, there we go. I've mixed that for about 4 minutes and it's quite a sort of sticky paste now. And what I'm going to do is add it to these 2 baking trays that I've lined with silver foil, and then put some cooking oil on as well, just to try and stop it from sticking too much, because it is quite a sticky mix. And that'll just make it easier for me to get it out of the trays when it comes out of the oven. So about half the mix in each one. A little bit more. It's quite a sticky, mucky part of the job, this one. There we go. And what we're trying to do is just smooth that out, get it off the spoon as best I can, and we'll just try and create a fairly thin layer across the bottom of the tray. Now this is going to expand quite a lot when it cooks, so we want to try and get a reasonable thin layer just to get it started so it cooks evenly all the way through. And then we're just going to follow the instructions on the packet and stick it into a preheated oven and cook it up. So there we go, that's the first one done. I'll do the other one and then we'll get them into the oven. So here's a finished bait, and you can see one thing I should have said is that I spread the mix really thin, probably only about 10mm thick on the base of the pan, because I don't want it to rise too much and get too thick. It's much better if it's the finished bait's about 10 to 12mm thick. And basically you can then unpeel the foil off the back of it. Here's one I've done earlier because it's a little bit tricky, and you can see it's quite a dense bait thanks to the wheat gluten, much more dense than it would be if it was just a normal cake mix. And that means that I can cut it up into cubes very, very easily. And by keeping the bait nice and thin when I cook it, it means that I can keep the skin or the crust on the top and the bottom of the bait, and just with a nice sponge in the middle. And you can either hair rig it, and if I hair rig it, I'll go through the two crusts because that's the toughest way to hook it, so hook it through that way. But for side hooking, which again works really, really well with this bait, it helps to disguise a hook. Actually means you can use a bigger hook if you're side hooking because it's hidden within the side of the bait. What I'll do is I'll go through just the softer centre of the bait, and there we go, push the hook through like that. Works really, really well. And unlike normal bread, this is much tougher. It will stay on the hook almost indefinitely. You take on a little bit of water but not too much, and crucially won't break down. And like I say, you can add any flavours or colours you want. One word of warning, because you're cooking it in the oven in the kitchen, I wouldn't use anything that's too stinky. A nice Scopex or sweet flavour is probably the best way to go to keep harmony in the family. And there you go, a really useful bait. There's loads of different baits that I use for floater fishing, but this has just got so much going for it. It's the right kind of texture, floats indefinitely, doesn't break down too quickly, very, very effective. So there you go, give it a go and let me know in the comments below how you get on with it, and I hope that was useful. And I'll see you again soon. Thanks very much for watching, and bye for now.